Alright, what's going on everybody? Welcome back to another video here on the channel, and today, man, we're going to be talking about Shane Gillis, who has become, I would say, one of the most popular, most on-fire comedians on the planet right now. I mean, this guy has been absolutely kicking ass. He recently just had a special that came out. I watched it. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I've watched some of Shane's content for a long time now, right? I'm not going to sit around and pretend like I was a fan of this guy or whatever back when he was like doing his SNL thing for the few days he was there or whatever, right? But over the last like 2 or 3 years, I've become aware of who Shane Gillis is, and I've enjoyed a pretty good amount of his content, right? I think he's a pretty funny guy. So I guess maybe that does make me a tad bit biased when it comes to the story that we're about to take a look at today. I don't really know. It isn't really just because this is Shane Gillis that I have the opinion that I do. I think this is realistically just kind of like the standards of comedy, and it's been the standards of comedy for decades at this point. I mean, there's been people in the industry who have obviously said some pretty wild and crazy shit. Like, I think if you are a comedy fan like me, you probably remember the whole Kramer incident, right, where he called that dude the N-word like 6 times at his show. There's situations like that obviously that's not acceptable. You can't just be fucking attacking some heckler in the crowd like that because, you know, the guy's messing with you or whatever. But what we're taking a look at here today from Shane Gillis, right, is just so fucking ridiculous and like pitiful and pathetic to me, man, because it's just kind of clear to me that people in the industry and in the media and whatnot, right, who they don't like Shane Gillis, they don't like his brand of humor, they don't like the people who enjoy or support him, right? And so now that he's becoming more and more popular, he's kind of getting that momentum to snowball now. It feels like all of a sudden people are coming out of the woodworks to lodge their fucking complaints about, you know, things that happened years ago, right? These aren't even like, you know, things that he said 5 weeks ago, right? This is shit that he was saying last decade, pretty much, man. I mean, how deep is this really to people? But some clips resurfaced of Shane Gillis from, I believe it's 2018 off the top of my head. We'll have to take a look at that to confirm. But that's apparently, but basically there's been some clips that have resurfaced. Unfortunately, I can't play them, obviously, because of YouTube's terms of service and their guidelines and whatnot. But he says some racial slurs. He says some like, he calls CNN gay at one point. He just, you know, he's being pretty fucking edgy. He's saying some pretty crazy things. If you really want to hear the full, I guess, TMZ leaked audio of what he said, you can easily find that. But of course, you know, YouTube, if they see that shit get put in the video, they're going to fucking age restrict it. Then pretty much nobody's going to be able to see it unless they sign in. And just, it's stupid, but that's the way it works. So I can't really highlight to you exactly what I'm talking about, but I found an article that I thought was pretty fucking ridiculous that really kind of highlights this, because obviously once it all started hitting the news, the mainstream media picked up on it because that's what they do. This is coming from the Daily News, the NY Daily News, I guess, right? And racist, homophobic, and ethnic slurs used by comedian Shane Gillis have resurfaced online in the wake of the news that he'll be hosting Saturday Night Live, the show that once fired him due to his past problematic behavior. SNL on Saturday announced Gillis as the host of its February 24th episode alongside musical guest 21 Savage. But it didn't take long for pushback on the casting decision, with many recalling the controversial jokes and offensive language he previously used on his podcasts. In a clip from the show A Fair One gathered by TMZ on Tuesday, Gillis can be heard using the N-word as well as homophobic and anti-Semitic slurs. Following the hosting announcements, fans also flocked to social media to express their disappointment and disgust. Quote, so SNL invites a transphobe up to the stage last week, a presidential candidate who espouses anti-LGBTQ hate on tonight, and next week, a guy who got fired from SNL for making racist Asian jokes, actor and writer Jeff Locker wrote on Instagram Saturday. I loved SNL my whole life, but Jesus fucking Christ, Lauren, what are you doing? This is not effing okay. Gillis was originally hired as an SNL cast member in 2019, but was fired days later before ever appearing on the show amid public outcry to previous racist remarks, particularly directed at Asians. Quote, Chinatown's fucking nuts. Let the effing, you know, C slurs live here. Gillis said to now deleted video from a 2018 episode of Matt and Shane's Secret Podcast with comedian Matt McCusker, or McCusker, I believe. There we go. Gillis in the clip also mimicked a Chinese accent and made fun of Chinese restaurants. So you can kind of see the framing that this article goes with right off the bat, right? I mean, there's no fairness given to this whatsoever. This is not an objective reporting. This is not somebody who's like talking about this situation because they really want to report the news on what's happening. This is somebody who doesn't like Shane Gillis, who's writing a think piece and is masquerading it behind the fact that this is journalism. So this clip that was gathered by TMZ on Tuesday, right, where he says all these horrible things, these slurs, you know, the anti-Semitic comments or whatever, right? This is a clip from years ago. And then, of course, you know, even the clip that they mentioned where he's like mimicking a Chinese accent and stuff like that, right? That is from 2018, okay? Which at this point now is 6 fucking years ago. Now, keep in mind, this all could have been brought up to make a big stink out of any time throughout that 6 years. And in a way it was, right? Because he only had a couple days as a stint on SNL because he got kicked off the show for it, right? But of course, after that, people have continued to enjoy Shane Gillis. People have continued to find him funny. His audience has exponentially increased. The guy is becoming a very quickly a mainstay in comedy. And then now, all of a sudden, now all these years later that he's finally reaching that success again, right? And the industry couldn't kick him out the door. Now, all of a sudden, TMZ and all these news articles and shit come out talking about what a scummy guy this was. I'm sure that was really, that was definitely a good faith thing. You know, there was no way that this is all just a calculated attempt at people in the industry to basically shut this guy down that they don't like, right? There's absolutely no way that they would be trying that shit. It even shows when you see in the article, they say, fans also flocked to social media to express their disappointment and disgust, right? Man, people were just so fucking irate about this. The general public could barely hold themselves together. I mean, I remember I saw this clip of Shane Gillis, dude, and immediately I started shaking. I got sick to my stomach. I was pissing in my pants a little bit. I had a turtle head poking out. I almost pooped on myself. I mean, I really didn't know what to do here for a second, bro. I was really losing control of my emotions and my behavior over this clip. Yeah, you know, fans flocked to social media to express their disappointment and disgust. And notice how none of these tweets, none of these posts, nothing, right? Where apparently there was this massive fan backlash, right? None of it was conveniently posted in this article, right? In fact, the only example of this massive public outcry that happened was Jeff Locker, a writer who is in the fucking industry, somebody who's already probably one of the established people in this whole fucking scene, right? So their only example of this massive backlash that the fans apparently all had was some industry guy who was afraid to lose his spot in the fucking totem pole, punching on him because of it, right? That's all they could fucking dig up. Some guy with his own preconceived notions, his own political opinions or whatever. That's you know, the best example they could find of this massive public backlash, right? Well, I'm gonna go ahead because, you know, it's actually funny, right? I was one of the people who initially reacted to this TMZ clip of Shane Gillis when they posted it, right? And if you go into the comments on their tweet, right, where they, you know, expose all this shit, right? Let's go ahead and take a look at some of the top comments from this massive fan backlash against Shane Gillis. These are all the top comments that I see under the TMZ expose on Shane here. TMZ is the worst, ratioed by the way. Talentless scumbags, ratioed by the way. Y'all are so fucking corny for this. So unbelievably, soullessly fucking corny. Also, no one's going to give a fuck, ratioed by the way. Fucking leeches, ratioed by the way. Who cares? Racism is funny. Get over it, pussies. Damn, I hate this new snowflake generation. Ratioed him, by the way. You guys are such F-slurs. Ratioed, by the way. I wonder why there's no author for the article. If you're gonna write it, you better back it. And of course, you know, that's kind of a fair point too, right? Like, yeah, I think if you're going to publish shit like this, right, where you're very obviously, very clearly trying to like discredit and harm somebody's career. If you really believe the shit that he's saying is so terrible and it's such a monstrosity to society and he should be fucking canceled for saying it or whatever, right? Why don't you want to put your name to it? You know what I mean? Why don't you want to put your identity to that? I mean, you're the one who has all the confidence in the world to expose this resurfaced shit that he said, right? That proves that he should be canceled or should have his career ruined, right? But you don't want to back it with your own name. Why exactly is that? Why would a journalist making a hit piece on somebody and exposing comments that they made over half a decade ago try to make their identity anonymous and obscure and hard to find? Why would they do that? Because it turns out, right, that if you go around doing shit like this and you try to to throw stones at people like this, that, well, like you could see from the reaction in the comments, people don't give a fuck, and they actually find you to be the weirdo. They think you're the loser because you're the one going around from over half a decade ago digging up clips of comedians. And that's what it really comes down to, right? It's like Shane Gillis is a comedian. This guy is not a fucking politician or something crazy, right? Like, this is a fucking comedian whose entire shtick, his entire joke, essentially, is making fun of people who act like this. That is the joke. The people who are making these kinds of comments and jokes and whatnot, right? That's the whole point of the humor. That's the whole point of the fucking comedy, man. But yet people are so incapable of understanding things like that, right? And I mean, it's not like Shane Gillis is the first white comedian to say the N-word or anything like that, right? I mean, fucking 25 years ago, however long ago, George Carlin was saying it in his fucking stand-up specials, dude. And he was regarded as one of the greatest comedians of all time. He was regarded as, you know, this fucking, like, I guess, liberal popular mind who was helping espouse these freer ideals to the general public through his humor and whatnot. And I mean, I'm not saying this stuff to, like, discredit Carlin or his impact on the, like, comedian game and whatnot, right? But that's exactly my point. These have been the standards and the things that comedians have done for decades. They say the uncomfortable shit. They say the shit other people don't want to say. They make jokes about the shit nobody else wants to make jokes about. There's a difference between doing shock humor that's unfunny and it actually is offensive and stupid and shitty, and actually being a master at your craft and actually being funny. Now, are all these comments that Shane Gillis made in the past funny? No, not necessarily, right? Just saying shit crazily with no punchline or no joke, that doesn't necessarily make it funny. But the thing is Shane Gillis has actually addressed that. And according to him, he says if you look back at the vast majority of his comedic career, that most of it is actually bad comedy. He wasn't being funny, he wasn't doing what he wanted to do, and from what I can tell from what he said, he thinks that over time, he's getting better, and he's getting, you know, better at actually telling the jokes that he wants to tell and whatnot, right? So the whole situation here is fishy, right? Because it's so obvious that these people are not bringing this up or saying anything because they actually have a problem with what Shane Gillis said. They're not saying this or bringing this up because they actually care that he made some really fucked up, mean, racist, homophobic, whatever jokes. They're bringing it up because they see an opportunity to kick a man while he's down. They see an opportunity that while this guy is trying to fucking build his career up and he's trying to, you know, get on top of the world in comedy and whatnot, right? They have an opportunity to try and kick the ladder out from underneath him so he can't keep climbing. And that's really what, you know, these fucking quote-unquote organizations and quote-unquote publications like TMZ exclusively do. They don't actually report on anything. There's no journalism. There's no real fucking thought-provoking content. It is nothing but tabloids, gossip, and drama. It is a fucking high school outlet, and it's kind of sad that they have any legitimacy because them fucking posting this stuff in a clear attempt to run this guy's career down ended up making mainstream news. And then all of a sudden you had fucking people from major publications writing shit pieces like we just took a look at, where they can't even get their own story straight, man. They can't even get their own fucking points correct, right? Like, you know, you talk about all this fucking fan backlash and how just irate the world was that Shane would have the gumption, the gall, if you will, right, to say this shit. Yet you can't go to fucking twitter.com where these comments are supposedly just so fucking plentiful that you could pick them right off the tree. You couldn't even go to Twitter and embed any of the links to any of these tweets in your article. But keep in mind, these people, they are journalists. They are bringing you information and reporting you cannot live without, folks. Unable to link a fucking tweet, but yeah, they're professional journalists who probably had to go to college to get their fucking degree for this. It's so pathetic, man. It's so ridiculous, right? I mean, if you want to view the things that Shane Gillis said in the past as like problematic or wrong, I have no problem with that. I don't think that that's really the worst thing that you could say. But if you think that it's something that means, oh, he should have his career ruined because some fucking tabloid pulled it up half a decade later and tried to weaponize it against the guy because he's doing really well recently, that's just lame. That's what fucking losers do. That's what pussies do. Like, you're not helping society, you're not helping social justice, you're just being a pussy, and you're just being a fucking, like, basically a schoolyard bully. It's really the lamest shit I've ever seen. So anyway, with that being said, man, thank you guys for watching. If you did enjoy, make sure to leave a like, subscribe if you're brand new around here on the channel, follow me over on Twitter and Twitch at @SubToOptimus. Make sure to check out Shoptimus down below. Thank you to my Watch Optimus subscribers. Your support helps the channel tremendously. And until my next video, guys, this is Optimus, Optimus while talking about the recent Shane Gillis controversy, and signing out. And that's a wrap on this video, but a big shout out to my Optimus Nation supporters. You guys are the real MVPs here. Your support with just $10 a month unlocks a treasure trove of exclusive videos, constantly updated, archived live stream VODs, and early access to all new uploads. Thanks for watching, and see you soon.